Hi everyone. Once again, I'm joined by Virginie Maisonneuve, our CIO Global Equity, to give her latest perspectives on the global equity markets. Hi, Virginie.
Hi, Peter.
So, Virginie, consensus in late 23 on rate cuts this year led markets sharply higher. Do you think that trade is crowded now?
Well, it is to a certain extent. That's right, Peter, although there's a lot of other things that have supported the markets. But the MSCI All-Country World Index is up 17% in US dollar term since October 23. That was largely supported by excessive expectations regarding rate cuts. Some were seeing up to 6 cuts for the Fed in 2024, which we never believed was realistic. In fact, we are in the camp of higher for longer. While inflation has come down sharply since the peak of 2022, in the context of tightening of monetary policy globally and the normalization of global supply chains, growth has surprised on the upside for many. We expected a deep recession. And the resilience in economic growth in the US has continued to also surprise many. A key question is to see how the last mile for disinflation unfolds. In light of the most recent CPI and PPI numbers in the US, it may well take more time to achieve the 2% goal.
Thanks, Virginie. So given this potentially difficult last mile of disinflation, what's the outlook for consumers globally?
The consumer sector is a very large part of the global economy, and this is a really important question. We have actually recently written a piece on this topic, and I think it's important to think about it around 3 key themes. First, the resilience of the consumer throughout COVID, thanks to the various schemes put in place by different countries. Of course, those are now lapsing. Second, unemployment is low in most parts of the world, and despite the expected moderation of economic growth, the unemployment rates in the G20 in 24 is expected to be slightly above 5% versus 4.7% in 23. Anecdotally, employers continue to report difficulties in filling positions. The resilience in the job market is in part due to the combinations of resilient economies and of demographics, specifically as aging populations impact the participation rates. Third, wage growth that has been stronger in the context of negotiations taking place when inflation was higher. This all combines to give a pretty strong outlook for the consumer and continued resilience post the COVID rebound. There's 2 additional things that we should say here. First, that disinflation is adding to consumers' purchasing powers as goods are cheaper today versus what they were tomorrow in real terms. In Europe, we expect household disposable income to grow by about 4% in 24, with fixed expenditures dropping from 5 to 2%. In addition, fiscal support in the US could be increased. There is a package called the Wyden-Smith package that is under review in the US, and when combined with the ERC, or the Employment Retention Credit, would bring support to the economy of about $256 billion in 2024. This is very meaningful and could represent about 0.9 percentage points of GDP.
Thanks, Virginie. Digging a little deeper, a subject that's got a lot of attention recently is GLP-1. Could you expand on what's happening here?
Yes, thank you. A really important question. So GLP-1s have gotten a lot of attention recently because they are a class of drugs that makes people feel sated for longer, they eat less, and therefore they lose weight. The drugs were originally intended for stimulation of insulin production, the reduction of blood sugar levels, and treat diabetes type 2. As weight loss came as an additional factor or benefit, if you want, the use for weight loss is now being emphasized. Given the world's obesity levels and issues related to it, such as cardiovascular diseases or events, it's very important. It's estimated that the total addressable market for GLP-1 is above $100 billion, so clearly a major topic for investors. And GLP-1 is also potentially disruptive, not just across healthcare and medtech, but also in various consumer sectors such as snacks and soft drinks.
Thanks, Virginie. Moving on to tech, we're hearing a lot about the performance of the Magnificent Seven. What do you think the prospects are here?
Thank you, Peter. Yes, tech has continued to be a very important sector to global markets. And here we really need to differentiate between the Magnificent Seven, as they're called, and the rest of the sector. Just to give you an idea, the 7 companies represent about 28% of the S&P 500 and 60% of the increase in performance in the S&P 500 since January 23. But they're not a solid block, and there's a lot of divergence within the group. For example, since January 23, the group has had over 120% of earnings upgrades, but some names like Tesla had downgrades actually during that period. Some names like Apple had low upgrades, so quite a bit of divergence. Beyond the Magnificent Seven, I think we really need to think broadly about the opportunities set in the world of digital Darwinism, which is something we've talked about in the past. Artificial intelligence is expected to contribute to the global economy to the level of $17 trillion by 2030. 6.6 trillion of which would be via productivity increase. Cyber spending will continue to grow dramatically given the acceleration of trends towards digitalization, moves by companies to the cloud, and the increased sophistication of hackers. Finally, we need to think about the future bifurcation of the tech world with China and the US solutions and standards going in different directions, and in a way, you would say, battling for dominance. So definitely another key topic to watch.
Thank you, Virginie. Insightful as always, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.